Happy Saturday and welcome to the Daily Fantasy With. It is a wonderful fantasy baseball Saturday. We got ourselves a 9-game slate tonight. We haven't been treated to great baseball on a Saturday night like this in quite a while. Most of the top games have been in the early afternoon. A lot of aces throwing early in recent weeks, but we get some top-notch pitching tonight. We get some decent venues for hitting, some value plays, some interesting stacks. And speaking of stacks, this is the Fades and Stacks podcast. So you're going to be getting my top pitching options. You're going to be finding out which stacks I like, which ones might be flying under the radar, which ones are going to be popular and perhaps popular for good reason. And but on that note, let's start off with the first game, and that's going to be here in Philadelphia, St. Louis at Philadelphia. The pitcher to own in this one is certainly John Lackey. He is the biggest betting favorite on the evening, and that's understandable. He is facing the worst offense in baseball against right-handed pitching. Phillies have been putrid. They just cannot scrape together any runs. They are a bit of a dumpster fire, and Ruben Amaro Jr. is not exactly constructed a scary lineup there in Philadelphia. He's opposing Aaron Harang. I'm expecting Lackey to get some run support. Should be a fairly safe bet for a W. $8,900 fair price tag to roster him. Not going to be my top cash games option. Is a cash game swerve if you really just don't want to pay up for the top option, who I will foreshadow and say is in the next game that I will be discussing. So this mystery man won't remain a mystery for very long. And if you looked at the probable starters, he's not a mystery at all. But $8,900 fair price for Lackey. I do like him in GPPs because he does give you some salary relief from that top arm. Doesn't have a ton of strikeout upside because the Phillies just don't strike out a ton against righties. They just don't do a lot when they put the ball in play. But Lackey capable of pitching deep into games. And do like him to get some run support. So pretty safe bet for the W. And it's safe to say not going to be stacking the Phillies against him. Maybe stacking the Cardinals against Aaron Harang, though. The right-handed pitcher has fared well in year one with the Phillies, and they have to be happy about that. Probably going to be able to flip him at the deadline, which, I mean, this is a perfect world scenario for them. But just a 16.9% strikeout rate, 3.92 FIP. 4.56 xFIP, definitely some cracks in the armor. Don't be fooled by the 3.24 ERA. Hasn't been that good. Certainly, they've gotten their money's worth from him, but 331 WOBA allowed to lefties, so you got to like the Cardinals lefties in that lineup, guys like Jason Hayward and Matt Carpenter. Righties are not exactly going to be tied up by him either, as he has ceded to them. Apologies. Lost my tab here for a second, but not exactly going to be tied up either. Lackey not a monster. I'm sorry, Harang not a monster against right-handed batters. Since 2012, he has allowed. Give me a moment here. Certainly not the ugliest WOBA, but not the best either. That checks in at 306. So guys like Johnny Peralta look good. And then back to lefties, Colton Wong, the leadoff hitter for the club, looks good. So I really like the 1 through 4 in this lineup. Looking at namely the 1 through 3, but Wong, Carpenter, Peralta, even a power hitter, boomer bust extraordinaire Mark Reynolds against a guy like Harang, who doesn't miss a lot of bats. Looks pretty good at Citizens Bank Park. And then behind him, we saw Jason Hayward hit last night, and Yadier Molina. So all options. The lefties, got to like them a little bit better, but very stackable team. Top to bottom, might be able to get some unusual stacks in, skipping some players as well. But definitely going to want to get yourself some Cardinals tonight, as they look like a fairly good stack. And one thing that can be very easy to overlook, everybody wants to think about what starters on the hill against the lineup, but this Phillies lineup, or these Phillies pitchers, have been getting absolutely battered. And that means that they've been taxing the bullpen. So if it does go to the bullpen, probably not going to get your A effort from the guys coming in. And if Aaron Harang does get rocked, they may just feed him to the wolves and let him just continue to get pounded, because they just don't have the arms to keep trotting out there. So I really like the Cardinals. This could snowball into another big effort. So one of my favorite stacks of the night. The top pitcher, the guy that is no longer a mystery man, is Corey Kluber. Leads every single meaningful statistical category among tonight's hurlers. Best strikeout rate, best K- walk percentage, best FIP, XFIP. You get the idea. Second biggest betting favorite, probably going to be jostling for biggest betting favorite honors all night with John Lackey until first pitch is thrown in that first game at Philadelphia, 7:05. Both are big favorites, but Kluber has certainly a much higher ceiling, and that's reflected by his $11,000 price tag. If you're a masochist, you can consider stacking against Kluber. I would say that if you're going to do that, please find me and play some head-to-heads. I would love to take your money for the price of on the house, but in all seriousness, you don't want to get any raise in there against Kluber. And you're certainly not stacking against him. Erasmo Ramirez has pitched better of late, but a lefty-laden Indians lineup could pose some problems for him. They posed problems for a lot of right-handed pitchers this year. They are one of the better teams in baseball in terms of WRC plus and WOBA, advanced metrics for measuring offensive success against right-handed pitching. And we've got Erasmo Ramirez giving up a 315 WOBA against left-handed batters since 2012. So certainly a number that some of these Indians hitters, such as Michael Brantley, Jason Kipnis, switch hitter Carlos Santana, Brandon Moss, can all potentially exploit. And other guys like David Murphy, who is strictly a platoon outfielder, but gets a decent lineup spot and playing time against right-handed pitching, also in play. A lot of stack options there. As I said, lefty-laden, basically up and down that lineup. Top of the order, bottom of the order, you're going to find some left-handed batters, maybe some wraparound stack options. At shortstop, you're going to get a cheap option of switch hitting Francisco Lindor, should you choose to go with this stack. Or if you're just looking to hook and maybe grab some of these guys in some mini stacks. So like the Indian stack, if we're ranking stacks right now between the two that I've highlighted, I do prefer the St. Louis Cardinals stack to the Indians, but the Indians are certainly a strong stack as well. Do get to play at their home ballpark, so these lefties do get a decent park factor for home runs as well. And Corey Kluber, as I said, obvious cash games play, also in play in GPP. So just because the ceiling is so enormous, gonna be running into some high ownership in that. Probably because he is the best arm on the slate, but with a guy like Dallas Keuchel also towing the rubber and Noah Syndergaard and some others, that might siphon some ownership. Still puts him in play in GPPs. Moving on to another game that starts before 8 o'clock. We got the 7 to 10 start time for Miami at Cincinnati. Weather was permitting, and they were able to get it in last night. Reds fans have to be delighted since they were washed out on Thursday. This means Anthony DeSclafani is going to get the turn for the Reds. And while earlier in the season I would have been advocating using him, and then in May I would have been advocating stacking against him, we're kind of in the middle here. Not going to say go ahead and stack against him, but not going to use him in anything other than GPP. Certainly, obviously, Corey, you wouldn't use a guy like this in cash games anyways, but I'm going to fire a single bullet or two with DeSclafani. Has closed the gap on his platoon split. He's done much better against left-handed batters than he did early in the season. Very good against righties. The biggest knock on him right now is that his strikeout stuff is either there or it's not. He went two starts, back-to-back starts, and struck out a grand total of one batter in those two starts. But he's also struck out about a batter an inning in a couple other starts here recently. So if he's on, certainly going to give you a nice GPP line. This is a Miami Marlins lineup that's a little banged up and also not very good against right-handed pitchers. So DeSclafani certainly qualifies as a right-handed pitcher. Not a bad tournament grab. If you're looking to grab a low-owned guy who can give you a quality start, should pick up the W. He's a favorite. Betting total is going to dissuade some owners. Checking in at 9 right now. That could move a half run either way before start time. But DeSclafani, your betting favorite in that, and I do like him a little bit in GPPs. Certainly not going to stack against him. Maybe grab a one-off there with Stanton if you would like to, or maybe pair Stanton and Yelich, but nothing more than than hooking a couple players in that lineup and taking advantage of Great American Ballpark's homer-friendly ways if you are grabbing Marlins. On the other side of things, might stack the top of the Cincinnati Reds lineup, though. Love Joey Votto, love Jay Bruce tonight. Gotta like Todd Frazier, power hitter, always good at home. And as I said, Great American Ballpark, great venue for power. featuring home run inflating ways for lefties and righties with a 152 park factor for homers for lefties, 122 for righties, according to Stat Corner. Gotta like that for some of these power hitters, and that definitely makes a red stack viable. So they're in play. Moving on to Boston and Kansas City, we've got Edinson Volquez and Rick Porcello. Don't love Volquez's price point. I think you can do better either moving down just a bit or moving up. Not actively going out of my way to pick on him, though. There may be a few Red Sox that are worth the trouble of rostering, but I'm certainly not going to go a full-blown stack against him. I just don't see enough consecutive hitters in that Red Sox order that really provide excitement, that really provide a high ceiling, that get me going. And as a betting favorite in a game that has a modest betting total, Volquez, that is, certainly not expecting a ton of runs from the Red Sox. On the other side of things, might want to stack against Rick Porcello. Very exploitable against left-handed batters. Struggles giving up a 348 WOBA to them since 2012. Has not lived up to this big contract that he got coming into the year. He's posting currently a 5.29 ERA. Granted, 4.11 FIP and 3.94 xFIP suggests that he should be better, but he's done this before. He struggles with left-handed batters, and sometimes the ERA estimators don't do the best job of recognizing that a guy just gets hammered by a certain handedness of batter. You got guys like Mike Moustakas, Eric Hosmer, switch hitting Kendrys Morales, who are going to probably give him problems. And some of the right-handed bats are just very good, namely Lorenzo Cain. Alcides Escobar, decent table setter up top. Not really a guy that should be leading off, but Ned Yost does what Ned Yost wants to. So I do like the Royals a little bit as I'd say somewhat a sneaky stack. They're always very good against right-handed pitchers because they put the ball in play at a really high rate. Porcello doesn't miss a lot of bats. You start stringing some hits together. They don't have that one guy that you say is a huge bopper, but Eric Hosmer really blossoming this year. Can deposit one in the seats if he gets a cookie. And then down order, and I feel a little bit embarrassed for not highlighting him with the other left-handed batters, but he's a guy that gets overlooked. Hell, he's overlooked by his own manager, Ned Yost, batting down in the order, typically 6. Alex Gordon, left-handed batter. So you've got a very stackable lineup that can go 6 deep. The 1 through 6 is stackable against Porcello, and again, they look like a under-the-radar stack to me. Certainly not my favorite stack, but when you get a low ownership stack like that, you've got yourself a chance to set yourself apart from the field, and that's what the Royals can give you. Moving on to the Mets and Atlanta Braves. Not going to be stacking against Noah Syndergaard. Sorry, Atlanta. You've gotten off to a nice start to the season. You do a good job putting the ball in play, but Noah Syndergaard has been fantastic. Electric stuff, hammer curveball, big powerful fastball, striking out a ton of batters right now. Checking in with a strikeout rate, a gaudy strikeout rate of 26%, second highest on among starters going today. Just walking 4.6% of the batters that he's faced this year, and really just been brilliant. 21.4% K- walk rate, 2.90 FIP, 2.93 xFIP. He is living up to that high prospect billing. As I said, like to get some shares of him in GPPs, but I don't love the fact that, I said on the FanDuel Punch-Out podcast that don't love him because I do think that the strikeout upside is a little bit capped by a Braves lineup that puts the ball in play a lot. But I do like him in GPPs. $8,300 is a nice price point. Got to worry he's not going to get that run support. The Mets do struggle against right-handed pitchers. Williams Perez, certainly not a imposing right-handed pitcher, but righty nonetheless, and the Mets just have not been scoring runs. So Syndergaard might find it tough sledding to get the run support that he needs to get the W, and facing a lineup that's just not going to make it easy for him to strike out batters. But if anybody can get some punch outs, the guy with a power arsenal like Syndergaard. So don't be afraid to throw him in a few GPPs, but temper expectations just a little bit. Maybe consider using some other options, because I do think Syndergaard's going to be slightly over-owned considering the matchup. As far as Williams Perez goes, not a guy that I'm advocating using in any contests of any sort. He's checking in this year with a 2.29 ERA, which is certainly good, but the 3.79 FIP and the 4.08 xFIP tell the story. 18.7% strikeout rate, 11.5% walk rate. Really not a very good strikeout to walk rate, 1.40 whip, so he's definitely giving up a number of base runners. Really flirting with disaster. Even at $5,800, I'm not a huge fan of that. If we were talking about a more explosive offensive slate, I'd certainly say you could consider using him just based on how bad the Mets are and that $5,800 price tag. But I just don't see enough huge bats to really love going after him. If we had the Coors Field game going on late, maybe. But again, I just don't see it. We don't have any double-digit totals here where you really have to get that salary relief and roll the dice on a guy like Perez. You're better off just not using him, and you're certainly not stacking a bad Mets offense against him. Moving on to the other New York team. This one is hosting tonight's game. That's the New York Yankees hosting the Detroit Tigers. And if you saw Nathan Eovaldi's last start, you certainly know where this is going to be headed. He served up. He managed to finish just 2/3 of an inning. He got absolutely thoroughly pounded, and unfortunately, for the Yankees, are not getting the return on the investment that they were hoping for when they dealt for him and Garrett Jones in the offseason. And in that 2/3 of an inning meltdown, he gave up 9 hits and 8 earned runs. That is disastrous. And the Tigers, occasionally they disappear. They are a righty-heavy lineup, so not going to get that cushy platoon advantage that you'd like against a guy that serves it up to left-handed batters. But Eovaldi's a wreck right now, and Yankee Stadium is not a good place to be a wreck. Fans could be raining down boos on him in this start if he doesn't find it early. And this season, he is allowing a 300 WOBA to right-handed batters, so not exactly giving to them, but maybe not his typical dominant self, and lefties are just teeing off. 440 WOBA against him, so guys like Victor Martinez certainly look pretty good against Eovaldi today. I do think he might be a popular target to stack against because of that recent meltdown, and because the Tigers are just a very popular offense with guys like Miguel Cabrera, Victor Martinez, JD Martinez, and Yoenis Cespedes in it. But that's understandable. That's power at Yankee Stadium, so if they can turn around Eovaldi's fastball, they can certainly do some damage. Now my favorite stack of the day, because Eovaldi has been tough. A 300 WOBA is nothing to sneeze at, and so he could turn in a surprising effort. Not a guy that you should be rolling the dice with at all, but it does provide some caution if you want to go out of your way to stack the Tigers. Certainly stick a few in, but I'm not going to go over the top. I'm going back to Philadelphia and taking St. Louis. They remain my favorite stack of the day. And odds makers currently have the total at 8.5 runs, with the Yankees actually serving as a favorite. So decent total for exploiting. But again, even the odds makers are not exactly saying, jump on this game with everything you've got. Alfredo Simon opposing him. Yankees have done work against right-handed pitchers this year, so I certainly like this play. They got to Justin Verlander a little bit yesterday. I do like the Yankees stack. You got some affordable options in there. The only problem with the Yankees stack, and it's a pain in the behind lately, you've got Chase Headley hitting second behind Brett Gardner. And directly behind Chase Headley is fellow third base eligible Alex Rodriguez. So it is one or the other. If you're looking for the affordable route, you can go Chase Headley. If you're looking for the higher ceiling route, you obviously want to go with A-Rod. But other than that, Yankees very good against right-handed pitching. A good ballpark for hitting home runs in. They are the betting favorite in this game with the decent total. So I'm going to say that they're stackable. They're one of the better stacks of the day. Put them right in there with clump them in there with the Reds and the Indians as the Ohio stack partners. And I'd probably rank them above the Kansas City Royals, but certainly in that mix as well. Next, we head to the Bay Area for the Bay Area rivalry between the Giants and Dodgers at Dodger Stadium. So got to like the offenses a little bit more there than you would at AT&T Park. Carlos Frias and Tim Hudson, 2 pitch-to-contact pitchers. Really like stacking either side of this, maybe stacking both sides of this. Not a huge total on this game, so that's going to drive ownership down. Carlos Frias, a big betting favorite, but very exploitable WOBA against left-handed batters. 375 since he's gotten to the big league. He's faced 168 lefties, and they have absolutely torched him. Giants certainly have a few to throw at him. Nori Aoki, Joe Panik, You've got switch hitter Angel Pagan. Then you skip a spot filled by Buster Posey, who just so happens to hit everybody, lefty or righty. And you're looking at Brandon Belt, another lefty. I love the Giants stack tonight. I don't care that the total's fairly low. They get a break from AT&T Park. They hung a big number last night, so you might see ownership up just a little bit as a result of that. But I think they can hang some runs tonight on Frias. He does have a meltdown on his record this season. Tim Hudson, older pitcher, pitching into contact, certainly puts the Dodgers stack in play as well. Healthier team now, so you got Yasiel Puig out there. You got Jacques Peterson, Adrian Gonzalez. You get to fill a bad second base position if you want to go 1 through 4 or 1 through 6 and fill second base with Howie Kendrick. And then Andre Ethiers really had a resurgent season, doing his best work against right-handed pitching. So I certainly see the Dodgers in play. This is a low total that should hopefully flush some people off of the stacks, but I do like both sides of it. Like the Giants side slightly better, even though they are the underdog, just because they have so many left-handed batters to throw at Carlos Frias. Next up is Houston and Seattle, and we're looking at one of 2 games to start after 10 o'clock tonight. They are Seattle, so got to like the pitching venue for Dallas Keuchel. I'm certainly not going to stack against him. He's been great again this year. Does a good job of limiting walks, keeping the ball on the ground. Some of the best hitters in the Mariners' offense. Laugh if you want, Robinson Cano. Still going to call him one of the best hitters in their offense, even if he isn't hitting like it this year. Track record's too long. He'll turn it around, but he isn't very good against left-handed pitching, even when he is going right. So expect Keuchel to tie him up. Definitely the right hand. He's throwing with the correct hand. Sorry, not the right hand. Let's not confuse things here. To be facing Kyle Seager as well, and then couple dangerous spots in this lineup. When Nelson Cruz, who makes for a nice one-off in GPPs, but because you're not stacking the Mariners, that's it. And then Mark Trumbo. Both guys hit left-handed pitching well, but not enough to dissuade me from using Dallas Keuchel and some GPPs. You certainly could use him in cash games, but just not a big enough betting favorite for me to like to roll the dice with him over Kluber when you're just not getting a big enough savings to do that. Opposing him is Taijuan Walker, who right-handed against a very right-handed dominant Astros squad. I'm not stacking against Walker either. If this were at Minute Maid, maybe I would be hoping for that meltdown from Walker with the very powerful Houston Astros lineup, but instead, I'm looking at Walker as a nice GPP play. He's been pitching well lately. High-octane arsenal, can really pile up strikeouts. Is facing an Astros team that leads the league in strikeouts against right-handed pitching. So certainly a high ceiling for Walker. Going to be lower owned in GPPs because he is opposing Dallas Keuchel. Really low betting total in this game. Over-under of just 6.5. So the pitchers are the way to go here. Maybe a couple one-offs, but that's about it. And the final game of the evening, starting at the same time as the Seattle Mariners contest, is the San Diego Padres at the Arizona Diamondbacks. So we're at Chase Field, great hitters venue. Tyson Ross does a good job of keeping the ball on the ground. So I don't necessarily think he's going to be serving up the long ball. Diamondbacks lineup, it's Paul Goldschmidt, A.J. Pollock, a handful of other okay options, guys like David Peralta, Yasmani Tomas, who was nicked up last night, and Steve Berthiaume, one of their commentators, did indicate that he thinks that Tomas could get the night off, which would make Ross's life easier. Not a soft enough offense that I really want to use Ross at $8,800, but not a great enough offense that I'm looking to stack them against Ross either. I just don't think the upside is there to stack them, especially when it's going to cost you an arm and a leg to use Paul Goldschmidt, and I just don't see a lot around him. On the other side of things, though, Robbie Ray has been a revelation for them this year, but his glowing ERA doesn't really line up with his FIP and XFIP. Sure, the FIP and XFIP have been solid this year, not spectacular, but admirable. I mean, we're talking about a guy who has a 1.09 ERA, but a 3.30 FIP, 4.36 XFIP. He is left-handed, and that's important because the Padres have a number of lefty killers in their lineup. Guys like Justin Upton, Derek Norris, Matt Kemp. And those are guys that you really want to get in the lineup against Robbie Ray, and that instantly makes them a pretty nifty stack. They also get a break from playing at Petco Park, so going to a run-enhancing ballpark within their division. I like the Padres a lot as a stack tonight. They didn't put up numbers last night against Ruby De La Rosa. Hopefully recency bias sets in. Gamers maybe are a little bit gun-shy to run with them. Matt Kemp coming off of a bad showing. And so there's certainly a lot of appeal to using the Padres tonight, and they're going to be one of my favorite stacks. They're rivaling, as of this moment, they're rivaling the Cardinals for my favorite stack of the night. Obviously, things can change once lineups are rolled out, but expected lineups, you know, the lineups that we've seen recently against the handed pitcher that these guys are facing, I'm going to say that I like the Padres just a little bit better. I like Chase Field. I think Robbie Ray's a slightly softer target than Aaron Harang. The one favor that I will say is going in the Cardinal stack, in favor of the Cardinal stack, is that bullpen issue and the fact that the Phillies could just leave. If Harang doesn't show up for his A game, he's going to be throwing BP and he's going to be stuck out there. So merit to using either one as your top stack, but those are my top two stacks of the day. I think none of them are the sexiest of stacks. It's a late game, and as my colleague Chris Rokas pointed out at Daily Fantasy Cafe yesterday, these late games tend to depress ownership, and the Padres don't tend to be high owned according to his studies of ownership for these guys. So that's also another feather in the cap of this Padres stack. So one of my favorite stacks of the night. And if you're looking to win some big money in GPPs tonight, definitely get some of these stacks in. Definitely check out Daily Fantasy Cafe and check out our optimizer. Check out our highlighted stacks in the cheat sheets for both FanDuel and DraftKings, and see what we're suggesting and what we're going to be rolling with. And use this advice to win some money tonight. Line your pockets, fill your bank account, do whatever you want to do with this money. Stuff your mattress if you still do that, but win some money. It's out there. We've got the advice to help you do just that. And on that note, that's going to wrap things up. Check back in at dailyfantasycafe.com for all your need-to-know info for winning big. Good luck tonight and take care.